Hello. I'm on site at the Globocorp headquarters with Ms. Neoliberal's 4 principles: liberalization, privatization, deregulation, and austerity. Would you mind giving our viewers at home a brief introduction?
Hello, I'm liberalization. I stand for freedom and openness on all markets. Domestically or internationally, nothing should stop the flow of goods, services, capital, people or anything else.
Sir? You have no pants or shirt.
Correct. It is very liberating to be free.
Moving on.
I am deregulation. I am against being told what to do. Deregulating means to remove the rules. We must remove any barriers that can hinder the private sector's ability to innovate, invest, and spread our goods and services to every corner of the globe.
You know the earth is round. There are no corners.
That is exactly what I mean. Corners would just get in the way of what should be a smooth world. It is the way things should be.
I am privatization. I embody the ideology of efficiency, and we all know that no sector is more efficient than the private sector. Many systems within a state could be state-operated, such as banks, utilities, even schools and hospitals. These often become sluggish and unable to compete or adapt to changes in the markets. With me at the helm, I keep companies lean and mean.
And I am austerity. I encourage good fiscal management to keep the public debt low and strive to keep inflation in check. This signals stability in the market and encourages investment, which allows private funds to power development.
Sir, you seem a bit of a mess and dangerous wielding that cleaver.
No worries. I just got back from work. Bureaucrats love to spend money and I am always nearby to chop off the excess. Much of what I trim tends to be social welfare programs and public safety nets. However, a good watcher knows how to make the cuts so appealing that investor money will make up the difference.
As the 4 pillars of neoliberalism, let us discuss how your management of globalization has impacted states. All of you are involved on some level with international finance, aid, and trade. Given that we are in the midst of a global recession caused from an international financial crisis, where is our international financial system to keep us on track?
Mr. Skeptic, you are absolutely right about this great recession, but I think it is important to recognize that it was not the liberalized and deregulated markets alone that caused this crisis. Overspending had its part. However, it was greed on the part of many that ignited this storm.
There is no true international financial system, although there may be one in the future. The idea has support in many economic circles, including Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz. Yet it is difficult to come to a consensus on that type of institution, because of the loss of sovereignty that states would experience in order for it to be effective, and harmonization would water down the strength it would need to effective. For now, we have the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. I appreciate that it offers guidance to raise interest rates, practice austerity, and eliminate protectionism. It allows developing nations to recover more quickly from crises.
The G20 is calling for increased funding, surveillance measures, and shifts in the IMF voting rights. Additional funding would be nice. It will be able to offer additional aid packages. The surveillance measures should be fine as it increases transparency. However, the United States and the European Union will not want to support it entirely due to the effects it will have on revealing in further detail their protected agricultural industries. Peer-reviewed budgets were also a component for increased surveillance, but advanced nations refused. If the developing nations want additional voting rights, let them have it. Good luck getting the more developed nations who fund the majority of the IMF's budget to give up those seats. Fairness is not always equitable. Do we see a pattern here?
But was it not those sorts of neoliberal policies that set the stage for this explosion? Furthermore, let's explore international finance and see if the IMF failed with the one-size-fits-all attitudes. Are trade and public deficits a dilemma?
An international financial system would be great, but we have a hard enough time dealing with the Basel Accord, and that is simply an agreement that is not compliance by treaty. My stance would encourage flexible guidelines and use voluntary compliance. This would allow industries to set the standard and expect them to raise the bar. The public will notice this and respond kindly. Yes, public deficits do matter, which is why austerity is so important. For example, low deficits help keep the speculators and bond vigilantes from causing trouble. Capital controls become problematic for multinational corporations when they must shift financial resources for investment and growth. Low public debt and diversifying currency exchange systems will keep the speculators at bay and allow a state to remain deregulated.
Although the public is crying out for increased financial regulation, it should realize that tools such as Basel are part of the problem. According to Real Clear Markets contributor Wendy Milling and the Banking News Network, Basel works against basic economic principles. If we want to get rid of excess risks, then banks must be exposed to risky environment and strip them of their government-backed protections. Continuing to pressure banks and force them to keep liquidable assets won't prevent a crisis. No government can do that, as a loophole will always be found, and the markets eventually have their downturns. Even with Basel III and their increased regulation, banks are free to continue extending high-risk credit to governments. Preventing high-risk credit to companies stifles early investment funds, and governments, such as Greece, remain free to misbehave fiscally and gamble on their default. Ultimately, the Basel agreements lack the teeth to be effective. They are self-regulated with weak key.
Maybe so, but they should remain just as accountable as any other nation.
Additional financial concerns can be addressed through macroeconomic policies for currency systems. Despite strong resistance from the United States, the global financial environment would be better served by creating basket reserves and allow a state to have flexibility against several currencies. This will make them less volatile and reduce the United States' influence as the current global reserve currency. At the moment, their fiscal policies are making the rest of the world nervous, particularly with the new round of quantitative easing to inject massive amounts of money into the markets. The main questions behind basket reserves ask who should get access to them and which currencies should be used. Currency exchange rates will still vary regardless of who is allowed into a currency basket reserve club, so what will be the qualifications to join? Perhaps a regional approach would be best, and then the major regional economies would become the dominant currencies to form the baskets. By no means shall.
Privatization brought up a good points about currency values and baskets. A devalued currency is good for exporting goods and services, but not as good for stock and bond investments. Increasing the money supply will devalue currency, and coupled with lower interest rates can bring economic growth, but risk rapid inflation. These strategies will be important for the 4 groups of basket economies, 5 if you include the major oil-producing states. They are called basket economies based upon their similar recommendations for growth. Advanced surplus states, such as Germany, will need to increase their demand. Advanced deficit states, such as the United Kingdom, should increase savings and undergo fiscal consolidation. Emerging surplus states, such as Argentina, must increase their spending to further stimulate the economy. Lastly, the emerging deficit countries, such as Turkey, should focus on infrastructure investments to turn their deficits around.
Which brings us back your question about the importance of trade deficits. Minimal or lack of trade deficits are important to state health. The more privatization and removal of non-tariff barriers that occur within a state, the more competitive it can be with its neighbors. Each state will develop its competitive advantages and the trade deficits will balance out or become surplus. The World Trade Organization, WTO, works to ensure that trade is performed fairly and maximize international trade. It also helps ensure that trade-related investment measure, TRIM, are eliminated and trade-related intellectual property rights, TRIPS, are maximized.
Before we get too far into trade, I would like to thank all of Ms. Neoliberal's principals for their comments on global financial matters. Our field correspondent, Magnum, is on the lookout for the change to freely exchange ideas. Let's see if he is successful.